much. How you doing, Brendan?
Good, good. So everybody, we have a good pit stop on the road to nationals, and this video will be training through injury because that guy just got injured. And so we're gonna get a sense from Craig, what's injured, what happened. We're gonna talk about our game plan. And then, if you're watching this video later down the road, it's the middle of November. We're hoping that nationals happens next year, let's say June, July-ish. So we're way far out from the event. So you can probably guess what our answer is going to be, but we're going to also talk about what would we do if this has happened in a month before. So Craig, what's going on, man? What's going on with your body? What happened? Where are you at?
Well, it's kind of a weird one because there was no, acute moment where, oh, something just happened to my knee. I think it was just, in hindsight, it's just an accumulation of overuse. I'm closing in on 12,000 miles this year since January. And after coming off of, I wasn't riding that kind of volume the 5 previous years. So while it wasn't a lot of hard miles, I think, just the accumulation of that fatigue may have caused a little bit of overuse in my left knee. Talked to a couple doctors, and they thought maybe it was meniscus. I had torn my ACL a couple of years ago. But, the good news is I got checked out last week. Because it wasn't getting better, even though I was taking, time off the bike and had stopped lifting lower body. The inflammation just wasn't going away, or the sharp pain. So long story short, got checked out. He said it was an IT band that has been inflamed, and it could be related to a little looseness in my knee from the ACL tear. But long story short, inflammation. Need time off, need some PT, need to reduce the inflammation, stretch, and it's just going to take a little bit of time.
Do they recommend taking things like Advil or something like that for the inflammation?
Not in this case, because the pain is in one very small area. It's just on the outside of the left knee. And he's recommended a topical, anti-inflammatory, what people might use for arthritis, applying it 4 times a day.
Have you tried that on it? Seriously?
I have.
Okay.
I'm throwing the kitchen sink at it.
When were you feeling the pain?
It was about 5 weeks ago.
When you lifted? Was it when you rode? Was it halfway through a ride? Was it at the end of a ride? When were you like?
So that's the reason I kept. I still had some rides and really just started by cutting the lifting out because mechanically it wasn't preventing me from doing anything. I could walk upstairs. I could squat. I could deadlift, and it wouldn't hurt. But when I got home and, climbing into bed, getting out of bed or something weird, just moving my knee a certain way, it would have a sharp pain. But again, it wasn't preventing me from doing anything. It was just, hey, this isn't normal.
So it was just randomly happening. Yeah. Those are, and that's a lot of stuff too, where I tell people when we start people up in the weight room and we have them do adaptation stuff and no weights, body weight, there are always a handful of people who are like, this is going to be too easy. And I'm like, you will be sore. We underestimate how much body weight can make us sore. But the biggest thing is I tell them, okay, if that's going to make you sore, you got to remember you really need to be focusing on form, because as you get sore, something's going to get tight. You're going to have muscles pulling in a different direction. And the more people get into lifting I think lifting is good in another sense of like you learn so much more about your body because you put yourself under other stresses that we don't see on the bike. And I get a better sense at least of like what a tight hamstring really feels like, or like when my glute, I never knew when people are like, how do they know their glute's not firing? Now, if I do like, not down dog, when you're on like all fours and you extend your leg backwards, I forget what that movement is called. Like you can tell when your glute is not firing properly. And I'll do some of those to warm up for a ride now. So I think it's interesting how many little like awkward tweaks and pains we can get if we get our form off, and how that cascades down through everyday life. And it's like something's wrong. I don't know what's wrong. But okay, so you kind of nailed it. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Well, I was just gonna say, we tend to focus so much on the big muscle groups, the glutes, the hamstrings, the quads, whatever. But those smaller stabilization muscles and tendons, those are the ones that, if we don't take it slow, they take on the burden of things. And that's probably what happened, with me. Just too much, you know.
And that's the thing too. We've called this Couch to Nationals. Craig's almost ridden 12,000 miles, or if you had eclipsed it. So it's like, we should say micro Couch to Nationals, like hadn't been training until we started. And I think that I don't think we piled it on too heavy. I don't know. What's your thought on that? Do you think we started too much, or is it?
No, I mean, I think it's probably just, I probably added weight too fast on some of the lifts. Like I know my squats were light. I think it was the deadlift. I put too much weight too fast. And, I remember it was about 5 or 6 weeks ago where I went for 2 reps and I'm like, I can't do this, and put it back down. And, who knows, that could have been the one where I, strained something in my glute or whatever. I don't think it was on bike, stress. I think it was probably too much weight too soon on the deadlift.
How did you set your weight? Did you follow like the GZCLP progression and like test it and take 85%, or did you just guesstimate it and jump in?
Well, see, probably the mistake I made was, let's say I'm going for eight reps or something, or I started too low. I started too low on the weight. And so after 2 weeks of this, you're like, man, I'm strong. I need to put some weight on here. And so then you start to accelerate things too quickly, so the mistake was not being honest at first, because you want to feel success. I'm going to do 10 reps, man. So I put the weight too low. And so then you feel,
it's like
you're ready to move.
You got the thing going down the track, and then you're like, full gas, here we go.
Exactly.
Dude, the temptation is real. I mean, I did the same thing, and I had a conversation with Patrick's brother about this of, I kind of plateaued, which is normal. And so I took a week off, and I'm actually going to experiment with this time over Thanksgiving of lifting a couple times through my rest week. Usually I don't, because I get I get very shredded from lifting, like mentally at night. We've talked about this before. I'm just like, whoa, I'm super tired. I think I'm going to do like a couple 85% lifts. But the point of this is I plateaued. I took a week off. I did my test. I went back to 85% as they prescribed. And I was like, this feels too light. And he's like, better safe than sorry. Do this, continue to add on, and remember, like, just like cycling, this is a long-term game. And I needed that reassurance. So hopefully this video reassures someone else who's like trying to, don't put the pedal to the metal, especially with heavy weights. Focus on your form. You're not going to reap that much more benefit versus the risk that you put yourself under. And that's why I always remind myself in the weight room, like, if it feels a little too heavy, back it off a little bit, be safe. And I've had some like issues with my knee when I don't follow form. And I do think it's deadlift related, which is why I have been excited about my new gym having the hex bar or trap bar. I believe that's the same thing, right? Same term.
Yep.
Because I've had that feeling of like the knee not fully, like I'll go ride the same day and it feels like a little like loose or something. And it just takes them to like pop back into place a little bit. I'm like, the deadlift, it's a great lift, but when it gets heavy, I think it's easy to tweak things if you're not careful. So without getting super
it's a total body lift.
It's a total body lift. It shreds. I love the deadlift. I love this. I can't wait tomorrow. I think I'm up to maybe 250-ish, which I'm trying to remember. I think I maxed out last year at 3 something low. So to be in November, feeling good, going into maybe it's 245. I'd have to look at my sheet, but I'm excited for the trap bar tomorrow and to see how many AMRAP. I like that, as many reps as possible I can do. We're coming up on 10 minutes, so I want to keep this under 20 minutes. But so what, training through injury, you kind of said it, you need rest. Don't do it, people. And we could also say training through sickness. When you get sick, you got to remember that cycling or lifting or any working out is stressing the body. TSS, think of that. You're stressing the body. And you're going to hear people say, oh, well, if it's above the head, you can ride. If it's in your chest, or if it's below your neck, like in your chest, don't ride. I think that's very true if you're almost on the mend, but does it really make sense to push it? I really try to stress rest when people are sick, but if you're injured, you just can't be riding and training. Like, it doesn't make any sense. You're just going to break your body down even more. So I don't know, do you have anything to add to that? Or what's your tip for staying sane now of not being able to work out, because we all love to go out and get the endorphins going and feel accomplished, whether it's checking the box or burning calories or whatever. How are you going to approach this time off?
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, I just got to look big picture, you know, and the irony is, for me, I consider myself pretty conservative when it comes to training. You know, I would rather do it long and slow than push the limit into the red. And you know, but it happens. Everyone's going to get injured, you know, eventually. And even though I consider myself pretty conservative in buildup, you know, I made a mistake, and now I can't beat myself up on it and with it, and it'd be dumb to just train through it. So, you know, if I want to be fast in June, I need to bite the bullet right now.
Yeah.
You know,
what's I will share my relatable story of, it was 2011, maybe one of the first. So 2000, I got my Cat 1 2010 in the end of the second season. So I think it was 2011 was when Bad and Kill was the pro race. We were putting on big miles. I don't know if I lifted that year, and it was in March, and I came back from a training race, and I think I'd done like 130 miles, and I did like 120 the day before, and it had been a big week. And like my calf felt kind of weird, like down by my Achilles, and I did like one more ride. I ended up tearing my peritoneum, the sheath outside your Achilles tendon. I was eventually off the bike for 40 days, you know, at Bat and Kill as team bottle boy. It was really, I was bummed, but sometimes you got to take 40 days off the bike. And it, you know, I came back, and then I'm in May. Everybody's been ripping. You know, then you have to be smart. And thank God I had a coach. Thank you, Jason Hillemeyer, who was like, okay, dude, you're coming back. You're going to go to this race and race how you want to race, but don't be disappointed if you don't do well. Don't expect to have May normal fitness. And we kind of went through, get your mind right with expectations and look towards, let's look at August. Let's look at July. Because you're 40 days off, you got some work to do. And so it ended up being an okay year. You know, we kind of cobbled together what we could, and I was back and, you know, riding well by the end of June. But it's a mental blow. And, you know, when you're training a ton, I don't think I had been lifting that winter. You know, winter lifting will help prevent those types of injuries. And I was just a young cyclist, you know, just full of gasoline and not exactly sure. We just drove the car too fast. But
yeah, and that's a tough one, and to have that come on in May. You know, after you put in all that work, you feel like you're kind of flushing things down the toilet. You know,
it sucked, man.
I'm
what would we do
if
this happen in May? What would we do if this happened in May?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it makes it tougher. It makes it tougher to to deal with. But at the end of the day, you know, I want to be able to walk when I'm 55 too. So,
Exactly.
you know, cycling is important and all that stuff, but you know, hey, it's not
Cycling
that
is life.
important.
It's life. No, I think, dude, you nailed it. You actually said it before, thinking big picture. Um, this is your first year of 45 plus. So, yeah, we're not going to do something to train through for the first year for 2020, which could possibly wreck 2021, 22, 23, 24, 25. So, as much as it would suck if it happened in May, I'd be like, yo, dude, gotta rest. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So, what else training?
So, you know, as athletes,
Go ahead.
as athletes, we want to feel like we're always doing something and making progress. Your original question was, what are you going to do in this time? You know, I'm still lifting, but it's upper body, and then I'm just really cleaning up my diet. You know, again, you want to feel like you're doing something positive, and so that energy that you usually put into training on the bike, I got to put it somewhere, and so. You know, I know I'm weighing 152. That's heavy for me, and it feels really sloppy when you're not working out. And so I just feel kind of sluggish. So I'm gonna drop a few lbs just to feel like I'm doing something and staying tight, because I don't need to carry weight if I'm not if I'm not riding and putting on muscle. You know.
So this is the worst book cover ever. But Tribe of Mentors by Tim Ferriss. I'm not a huge fan of his podcast, but I heard about this. He talks to over 200 people and asks them a lot of like 4 to 6 questions, like, what's the worst advice you hear in your industry, or what would you if you could have a billboard, what would it say? Or there's a lot of varied things in here. And one guy, I forget exactly what the question was, but it was like, well, what's one thing that you've added to your routine that's helped? And he mentioned how taking exercise away from his weekly routine has helped him, because it's made him focus on all the other things to stay fresh. So he's like, if I'm working out, then I don't mind as much if I eat the bag of Cheetos, because I just burn, 1,200 calories. So like my brain's like, I can eat these Cheetos. He's like, when I'm not working out and I'm meditating or whatever and working in my mind, now I'm like, okay, I need to eat the celery and I need to eat the carrots. I need to eat this. So there's always a way to improve. And I think you really hit it on top of the head. I'm sorry. This book has a dent in it. I bought these for a couple people for gifts. And anyways, that's awesome. Any closing thoughts? So training through injury, don't do it. Accelerate, whether you're lifting or training in a preseason. I've got a video coming out in preseason progression. If you're in race season, things change a little bit. Slower is better than faster. And what else? What's one last bullet point? Sorry,
Yeah,
I took all the easy ones.
You took the low hanging fruit. But yeah, keep your eye on the big picture. That's
love it. All right, guys, if you have questions, I got to get Craig an email address. It's cpolston@gmail.com. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah, we got to get him at Craig at Evoke Bike still. Brendan at Evoke Bike. Hit us up with your questions, comments. If you have questions for us as you progress through towards an event, this is a great series to add in your questions. So maybe we wouldn't call it CAP4 questions, but we would call it like event training questions. Hit us up with those, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks, Craig. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks. See you.
See you, man.